Okay, so as you've no doubt heard by now, the writers and actors are in strike in Hollywood, which is awesome. I'm in full support. I voted for it as a proud Writers Guild of America member. And there's been some amazing PR about some of the details about what we're fighting the streamers over and the studios. But there's actually this bigger underlying reason why conditions and pay have gotten so bad for creatives recently. And that's really why this is happening. Like, under all the details, this is what's going on. And it's actually also connected to why so much content has gotten so bad, and why you as an audience member may be kind of wondering why our industry seems like a dumpster fire right now, because basically it is. So here's what's actually going on. Since 2008, starting with Netflix, subscription streaming platforms have offered audiences a tantalizing deal. You can have unlimited content, infinite choice for $8.99 a month, $12.99, whatever. And since that time, for the last however many years, audiences have said, great, that sounds amazing, understandably. And so subscription streaming platforms, starting with Netflix, have captured virtually the entire audience base for film and television, to the point that the average audience member will no longer pay even $2.99 to rent a film that is not on a subscription platform they're already paying for, even if that film has won or been nominated for an Oscar. People won't pay $2.99 to rent it someplace else. So as a result, the entire film and television industry has had to move over to a subscription streaming model, because that's what audiences want. It's a great deal for them. So now we have not just Netflix, but of course Amazon Prime, Apple TV+, Hulu, Disney+, Paramount, blah, 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 blah. But there's a fundamental problem with the situation. That business model, that streaming subscription business model, is impossible. It doesn't work, and it never has, and it never will. The simple math equation of how much money any streamer can make from subscriptions of $12.99 a month times the number of human beings on planet Earth with Wi-Fi does not equal how much it costs to make what feels like unlimited content for those people. Because what feels like unlimited content to people in Brazil or India or the United States is different. And so it's not the more people you have in different places, the more content you need to make, and the math equation doesn't work. So that's the dirty little secret of the streaming companies. They're successful in the sense that they've captured the entire audience market, but they're not profitable. But because this offering is so attractive to audiences, the entire industry has been forced into this business model that is impossible, and so the entire industry is being forced off a cliff. And this problem keeps getting worse, because the more subscription streaming platforms there are, the more fragmented the audience becomes. And so the fewer subscribers any one platform has, and the more money they're losing every year while trying to keep up the feeling that they're giving you unlimited content. So this is why they're squeezing creatives, because they're losing money hand over fist on these platforms, and they're trying to cut corners. Now, because this is late stage capitalism, they're not cutting corners everywhere. They're still paying their CEOs like $50 million a year. And they're still finding ways to extract profits for their shareholders, because those are the two groups of people that late stage capitalism cares about. But it's a totally unprofitable model. So they're squeezing the only people that don't matter to them in this equation, who are the people who are actually making the content, the creatives and all the crews and everybody who's actually making the content that this whole scheme is built on. So this totally unprofitable, crazy business model means that only mega corporations can afford to own a subscription platform. So now we're getting to why this is bad for audiences and not just creatives. Because the only ones that can afford to lose that kind of money owning a business are mega corporations who are playing some other kind of game. So Amazon doesn't care that it's losing money on media, because Amazon's in the business of selling products. And if you're watching media on their platform, it A, means that you have to have a Prime subscription, and it B, it's keeping you on their website, so you're more likely to buy products from them. Apple is in the business of selling computers and phones, so they don't need to make money on their film and television content as long as it keeps people locked into buying their products, because once your content is on an Apple app, you have to keep buying Apple products in order to access it. Disney can lose money on its content because it simply enables them to make money on theme parks and cruises and merchandise, which is where they make their actual money in the first place. but no normal people who have to actually have a business where you like actually have to make money doing the thing you're doing can afford to own a subscription streaming platform. So as a result of all of this, there has been massive consolidation in the media industry, more than there has ever been, because again, the only companies that can afford to lose money running a subscription streaming platform are these mega corporations. So we now find ourselves in this situation where 5 mega corporations, and specifically 5 white guys at the top of 5 mega corporations, now get to decide literally everything we watch. So that means that the stories we are watching, which are powerfully defining our present reality, who we think we are as people and the future we will live into, are being controlled by a tiny handful of folks at 5 mega corporations. So at this moment where it feels like we have infinite choice, what we actually have is the illusion of choice, because we are locked into this subscription streaming services by our own participation, which are mainlining the kinds of content into our brains that these 5 mega corporations would like us to watch. So what would they like us to watch? Well, this is what I call fast food media. Any subscription streaming platform's goal is for you to never turn off their channel, because the more their content fills up your days and hours and worlds, the less likely you are to cancel your subscription. So if we can travel in the Wayback Machine to the days when content companies were primarily trying to get you to see movies in movie theaters, what they wanted, what was financially beneficial for them, was stories that were so impactful, so transformational, that you would leave your house to see them, and they would affect you so much that you would go out to dinner with your friends after and talk about the movie, and then people would hear about you talking about the movie, and that was good business for them. But that is the opposite of what is good for their business now. Now they don't want stories that affect you, expand you, challenge you, inspire you, because then you won't want to watch the next thing right away. Think about a time when you watched something that truly transformed you. You want to go talk to a friend after, or take a walk. You want to process what you've just experienced. And that's bad for them. It's bad for their business model. So instead, they want to serve you the kind of content that will keep you binging. We literally call it binging, usually alone on your couch, just letting the next episode flip to the next episode before you could even reconstellate yourself enough to make a different choice or even think a little bit about what you've just seen. And once they've found something that you like to binge personally, whether it's baking shows or true crime or detective shows or dating shows or whatever, they're going to offer you up more and more of that thing, because they don't want to offer you perspectives that will challenge you, that will really make you think or feel deeply, because that kind of experience, again, you're going to want to turn off the television and go interact with other human beings, which is bad for their business model. They just want you consuming. Fast food media. It is low on substance, low on nutrition, high on craving factor. Now, this is a really big problem for all of us as individuals who are consuming this fast food media, as well as the culture that we are making up collectively, because the stories we consume shape our reality. Scientific studies have shown us that the movies you watch and television shows you watch affect your hobbies, your career choices, your emotions, your sense of identity, your relationships, your mental health, even your marital status. Stories are the mechanism through which we process collectively the experience of being alive. They are how we decide not just what and who is important, but what is even happening in the first place. There are 11 million sensory receptors in the human body, and 10 million of them are dedicated to sight. And at this moment in time, when the average adult consumes an average of 8 hours of media per day, what we are seeing most of the time are stories streamed through our computers, laptops, televisions, and phones. Most of that right now, because of everything I've just described, is fast food media. So all of that may seem frightening, horrifying, nauseating, but what this actually means is that media is our single most powerful tool for transformation, because the stories we tell today will define the future we live tomorrow. Today, we are living through a cultural moment of overarching hopelessness and uncertainty following out of the past several years, which is evidenced by the facts that 75% of teenagers say they are fearful about the future, that suicide is now the second leading cause of death for people under the age of 34 in the US, and that loneliness has reached such unprecedented proportions that the US Surgeon General has literally declared it an epidemic. And this is happening at a moment where we're consuming all of these stories, 8 hours a day worth, clearly making movies and television one of the most powerful levers for change. And yet it's also happening at a time when these tiny handful of megacorporations have trapped us in an ecosystem of fast food media, intent on extracting outsized profits by keeping us in numbness and isolation, binging largely nutrition-free content. We are sick because the content is being created through toxic processes that devalue and harm the creatives making the stories we're watching, the actors and writers and directors and all of the amazing crews. So if we want stories that make us healthy and shape our world in a more healed and whole direction, we need a process to make those stories that is also healed and healthy, and which values, financially and otherwise, the health and well-being of both the artists making that content and the audiences watching it. So yes, I'm in favor of this strike. I'm in favor of all that the WGA and SAG-AFTRA are fighting for. I hope they get it. And there is actually a bigger problem here that's going to require us to look away from subscription streaming platforms altogether and towards imaginative systems of regenerative media. That's what Charlene Sanjanko and I and our team are doing over at Regen Media, the first and only Indigenous-owned and female-led regenerative media studio. I've just laid out the problem. If you're interested in knowing more about a piece of the solution, come and check us out at regeninmpactmedia.com.